Hold up, let's get real. Hey guys, welcome to Real Talk with Ronnie. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and the podcast and follow me on social media at Ronnie Calra. Today's guest is Amanda Munz, founder of the Fashion Foundation. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
So I follow you on social media, but for those that don't know who you are or what the Fashion Foundation is, give me a brief rundown of what this foundation is.
So basically, we get designers from around the world to donate merchandise that they don't need anymore. We sell it, and between that, donations, fundraisers, events, we use the proceeds to buy school supplies for local underprivileged kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you get started in this?
So I went to high school for fashion design. I went to like a technical school.
Okay.
And then I was going to FIT to get my bachelor's, and I landed my first internship in fashion at 16 years old. And I stayed there for 5 years. So like,
it was a great internship?
It was a great internship, and I got paid. Like, I did not get free labor for years. But I had more experience in fashion, like going into college, than most people had leaving college.
Sure.
So I started to kind of learn, like in the industry, that there's a lot of waste that happens. Like all of these brands that I saw in showrooms had product just like lying around that nobody knew what to do with. So when I was getting ready to graduate from FIT, I kind of had the epiphany of like, I don't think I can do this for the rest of my life. Like I'm seeing all these samples, what can I do to like make it better? So I basically told my parents, like, not gonna get a real job after I just studied fashion for 6 years between high school and college. And I'm gonna start a charity in the fashion industry. And they were like, excuse me?
Yeah,
like,
how did that
what?
go?
At first they were like, are you sure? Like they couldn't comprehend it.
Yeah.
But then I decided like I need to get my master's degree because all I knew was fashion.
Interesting.
So I went straight from undergrad to my master's in public administration and kind of learned the fundamentals of like, how does the nonprofit and public sector work? And then they kind of understood like, okay, she has like a path. She's not just like quitting everything to just start a charity.
That's actually very smart, because saying to your parents after going to college, after having, I'm assuming them help you or them paying for an education, and then saying like you're just going to start a charity, you know, without the foundation of knowing where to go and what to do, because that whole industry is a whole different beast in itself. Like I wouldn't even know where to begin. So the fact that you got your master's, you did your homework, you understood like it's basically a business. However, it's non-for-profit.
Yes.
So you're starting a business, you are technically an entrepreneur, it's just the proceeds to that business are going towards a much better cause, which
yes, and it was
so
like
nice.
Weird because I knew people who like ran businesses, but I didn't know anybody who ran a nonprofit.
Right.
And like nonprofit and for-profit are similar, but they're very, very different. So I would like read books about like entrepreneurs in the social good kind of sector, and that was kind of like my guiding force, because I didn't know anybody who I could call and be like, hey, you started a charity, like what did you do?
Right.
So I would read books about like Adam Braun, who started Pencils of Promise, and Blake McCoskey, who started Tom's Shoes.
Oh yeah.
And like that kind of like pushed me in the direction without having to call somebody, because I didn't have a mentor like
Very
in that
interesting.
industry.
Hopefully people that have questions about doing this on their own will watch this and learn from you.
I hope so. 'Cause I did like all the mistakes, so I feel like hopefully my story will kind of like help people. Now so many people come to me to be like, how did you do it? What did you do? And I'm like, well, I had to learn on my own. Like you have to learn on your own. That's the only way you're gonna figure it out.
So tell me how you got started. I mean, speaking of mistakes, I'm sure there was a learning curve since you basically did all this research on your own. Tell me about the beginning. How did you get started?
So when I had the idea, I basically told my friends, like, I want to start this online store of donated merchandise.
Okay.
But I didn't know anybody in fashion. Like, my dad is not like a CEO and like could not like connect me to people.
Yeah.
I literally had to start from the ground up. So I called all my friends and I was like, clean out your closets. I need clothes to put on this website. And my aunt said that I could use her basement like to start, because I don't have a big house, so like I didn't have the room to start it. So I basically every morning would like go to her basement, open a folding chair, open like a folding table, that was my desk, and I just started like hustling, and I learned like how to build a website, how to take product photos, how to edit product photos, like how to start an Instagram. These are things that like nobody teaches you.
Right.
So it was like super, super, super small. Like I deposited $5 into a bank account to like open up a checking account.
Yeah.
And just like hustled from literally a basement. And then I like quickly learned like friends and family are great to start a business.
Definitely.
But it only gets you so far. Like they will help and they will support, but like not all your friends are going to go buy your product, and like they're only going to share so many times.
Right.
So it took me about 4 or 5 months to figure out like, okay, now what? So then I started going out and like networking, and I went to a lot of events in the city, and I just started like talking to people and telling people about like what I do. And everybody loved it. Like nobody has ever told me like, that sucks. Yeah. Like your idea sucks, your organization sucks, like I hate it.
Right.
And then I like just started branching outside of my network.
Right. Which I think is tough, right? Because in the beginning, whenever you're starting something new, people are always like, use your network, tap into your network, tap into your network. And it's super important to do that.
Yep.
And then what? Right? Like your network is only as big as it is. And then the secret really is grow your network. So tap into your friends' friends, your family's friends, and then just make your network bigger. And like in any industry, I think that's like so important, just because you are who your network is. And that's how people, like whether or not you're a service industry or selling something, I mean, that's how I began. My first listing was my boss's boss from my last job. And he knew me, he knew my work ethic, he knew I had 0 experience, but he gave me his apartment to sell because he was in my network.
Right.
And it's a little bit of luck, but it's also who you know. And from there, you know, then all of a sudden you have a sale under your belt, and the rest is history. So I love that you started in your aunt's basement. I feel like so many super successful companies that we hear of these days, like Apple, were born in like a garage. So, you know, for the people out there that are thinking, I have this idea, I don't know where to begin, I don't have the money, like you don't need it. You just kind of need the motivation.
And the drive. And like I used to get so offended because I remember somebody called me, this was like 2 years ago, and he was like, oh, you're so scrappy. And I was like, oh, like fuck you, like no I'm not. And then I was like, wait a second, no I am. And like you have to be scrappy, because if you go into a business just being like, okay, I'm gonna put $10,000 into marketing, I'm gonna put $5,000 into a business coach, like all of those expenses add up really quick. So working from a basement for 2 years, like I didn't pay rent, I didn't have to pay like internet. I didn't have to put in money to those things. And I was thankful because I didn't. But that allowed me to like grow my business and charity in a different way.
Right.
So I'm like, now I look back, I'm like, well, I'm grateful for that basement. I wish I could go back to the basement and like not pay rent or pay expenses. And I think it's okay. Everybody just like wants to like jump in and thinks that it's going to happen overnight.
Or be successful right away.
Yeah, it doesn't happen like that.
Right. There has to be a journey. Like it doesn't, you know, and it's hard because on social media, I feel like we look at a lot of really successful people and we just see their success. We don't, like, this is why I kind of created Real Talk with Ronnie, to understand how they got there and to learn about this story, because that's like really the hardest part. Like once you're successful, doing all these things and getting all this exposure is easy. It's like the hard part that nobody wants to talk about because it's not sexy.
Yep. And nobody wants to like, you have to go back to like simplifying everything.
Right.
Like one of the first steps I remember was I needed to find a lawyer because I didn't know how to like incorporate and file the legal paperwork.
Right.
And I didn't have any money to pay somebody to do it.
Right.
So I remember just like going to Google and Googling lawyers on Long Island, and one of the first firms that I found, I just like cold called them and I was like, hi, like I have this idea, I want to speak to a lawyer, like can you help me? And the receptionist was like, yeah, 1 second. And she transferred over to me to this guy named Tom. And I started talking to this guy named Tom, and he was like, you know what, like, I like you. You remind me of my daughter. Like, come in for a meeting. And I was
Amazing.
like, okay. Like, so then I remember getting like all dressed up in like business attire and going to this like lawyer office. And I walk in and it was this massive, massive building on Long Island.
Yeah.
The firm ended up being like one of the biggest firms on Long Island. It's a huge firm. I met with this guy named Tom. He brought in his associate, Bernadette. I told him my story and my idea, and he was like, we're gonna help you. And they gave me like pro bono service to help me incorporate. And
amazing.
Like, but people think it's so complicated, but
right.
like all I did was Google lawyers on Long Island, and that got me to that. And maybe like I lucked out with
Sure.
it. But at the end of the day, nobody wants to just sit there and Google like and cold call people.
Right.
It goes really far. And like Tom to this day is still a friend of mine, and I actually like have dinner with him, and I've maintained that relationship with him. But people underestimate like the power of the cold call or the cold email.
And being human.
Yeah.
Like you literally just told him your story and he somehow related to it.
Yep.
Or felt for you and decided to do this on his own. Like he didn't have to do that.
No, he did not. Like he was like well into his career. This was no sweat off his back. Like he did not have to do it for any reason. And I'm sure,
like, listen, he probably doesn't even have the time, but he made the time for you.
Exactly.
Because he saw something in you, and that's like literally all it takes.
Yeah, but nobody wants to do that, because then people would call me and be like, hey, like, what's your lawyer's name? Can you connect me? I'm like, no, like, you need to learn how to go out there and like ask for it. Because that moment taught me like, okay, you need to do stuff like on your own, like, and it will work.
Hustle.
Yep, exactly.
Hustle. So fast forward, I read an article about your encounter with Rebecca Minkoff. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that.
So Rebecca came a couple years after I started the organization. I'll like backpedal a little because I had spent probably like a year basically building my website from people's closets. Okay. So my whole website was people donating from their closets. Yeah. So then I started networking, going into the city, meeting people, and I met somebody who worked for a really big handbag company. So I connected with her like online first through a networking event, and she worked for a really big handbag company. And about 6 weeks after we connected online, like we kept trying to get coffee and it just wasn't panning out. Yeah. And like 6 weeks later, she was like, hey, like we're moving offices. We have a bunch of handbags we can donate. Like, can you come pick them up? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And she was like, can you come tomorrow? And I was like, yup, done. And she was like, you might want to bring a U-Haul truck. And I was like, oh my God. Like I didn't tell anybody, because I was like, if I get there and they gave them away, like who knows? Yeah. So I literally hopped in the car with my cousin the next day. We drove to the city. We met this girl for the first time in person, and she and her company loaded up my car with like 300 handbags. Wow. And I left there thinking like, holy shit, I did it. Yeah. Like I just got my first designer donation. Right. And then all of a sudden it like snowballed, like because I'd be like, okay, like I got this donation, like now I can go to other companies because I have that one name under me. And then I got a big pajama donation, a couple thousand pieces of pajamas, and then I got a couple thousand pieces of sweaters and leggings. Exactly. And then it just like, and they were delivering them to my house, like literally on the front lawn. There was like boxes. So I started to build up that credibility, but it took me a year to get there. Absolutely. And then it took me,
by the way, isn't a lot of time, I feel.
No, looking back, no.
It flew.
Yep.
However, it does take energy and, you know, kind of hustling for a year for you to get that big break. Yep. And people who want like the instant satisfaction, or we have an idea and tomorrow I want to be a millionaire, like that's not real life.
Doesn't happen. Yeah. Like maybe happens to a few lucky people, but if you don't put in the work, you don't get it.
Amazing.
So at that point we're like 2 years in, and we had a lot of merchandise still from a basement. And then I went to a charity event at Rebecca Minkoff's store because I was very active with the Leukemia Society. And I walked into the store, and Rebecca was talking to my friend who used to work with her. And as soon as I walked in, my friend was like, oh, Rebecca, this is Amanda. Amanda, this is Rebecca. Amanda runs this great nonprofit. Rebecca started asking me about it. And like, you don't push, like you just have that like genuine conversation.
Sure, this is what we do.
Yeah. And started telling her, and she was like, do you have a card? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I gave her my card. And like, that was kind of it. And I just left there that night being like, don't think about it. Yeah. Like hopefully like everything aligns. I didn't tell anybody. Right. And then a week later, her assistant emailed me and she was like, hey, like Rebecca gave me your card. We have like 26 boxes we want to donate. Like, wow. It's always how soon can you pick them up? Yeah. And I was like, now. And I literally called a friend, got in my car, drove to the Rebecca Minkoff headquarters. Yeah. And they just donated a bunch of samples. I could only fit like a quarter of it in my car. Wow. And they were like, we'll ship you the rest. And
that's amazing.
That moment is the moment that like changed everything, because Rebecca knew like about me and the charity. Yeah. A lot of times it comes from the donations, like the bottom of the totem pole, or like a department in a company. Yeah. But for this one, it was
the designer.
Yes, it was like Rebecca being like, wow, like how cool.
That's phenomenal.
It was, honestly, I just remember like crying getting that donation, because I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe like she believes in us to like do that for us. Yeah. And then
your
like,
aha moment?
I would say, yeah, like one of the aha moments. Like one of definitely like the oh shit moments. Like,
yeah.
oh my God. And then 6 weeks later, they reached out again and they were like, hey, like we're cleaning out our storage unit. Like we want to donate our samples to you. And I was like, oh my God. And we got that second donation from her. And it literally, we were at capacity in the basement. Like the basement had to be, I'm going to say at least like 1,800 square feet.
Yeah.
And we had probably like maybe 180 bins filled with merchandise in this basement.
Wow.
And my aunt was like, you're done here.
Yeah.
Like you have to move on. Like
yeah.
you have to, she was like, go get a storage unit, like figure
Do
it
something.
out.
Yeah.
But we were at capacity. And I had told Rebecca like months down the line, I was like, you changed my life. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, you physically pushed me out of like that home office and made me take the next step. Mm-hmm. And she did. And it was just because of like all of these samples. So that's when I basically like got out of the home basement, took the really big plunge of like, okay, I need to go pay rent somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I got a small showroom on Long Island, but it like made it more official because now people could come and actually shop. Yeah, like my friends would come to the Aunt Sherry's basement, but like I couldn't say to a customer like, oh, yeah, come to the basement.
Yeah.
So it made me definitely grow in my business. And that was kind of like the pivoting moment too.
So now your showroom is still on Long Island?
No, so that was my first showroom. Then I moved to a bigger showroom on Long Island and I stayed there for 2 years. And then last year I finally like fulfilled my dream of opening a New York City showroom.
Amazing.
It took me like 5 years to get there.
Listen, in the scheme of things, that's nothing.
It's true. It's true. Rent in New York City is like too high compared to Long Island.
We know.
It's like painful to write my monthly
But
rent.
it's almost like a nod to your business. Like you made it. You have a showroom in New York City. You pay rent in New York City. Like you have done it.
Yes.
It's like another notch on the belt in terms of your success, in my opinion.
It was definitely like one of those levels where I was like, okay, because from day one, everyone was like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I always said like, this organization belongs in New York City.
Yeah,
like
fashion capital.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was the moment where I was like, okay, like we made it.
That's amazing.
We made it ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there's always next levels of making it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You made it, you passed this level, on to the next. And I think that's always good to look forward to.
Yeah.
So how do you choose which charities that you donate to? Now that you have all of these brand name designers giving you items to sell, how do you choose where this money goes? How do you pick and choose who to give it to? Because that to me sounds like a very difficult choice.
So we actually, the Fashion Foundation is a 501c3 charity.
Okay.
So basically what we do is we use the money, we then go to schools and we'll work only with New York schools, underprivileged areas, and I'll say to them, what do your kids need? Mm-hmm. And they'll say, okay, like we need this, this, and this. Sometimes it takes them a week to get back to me and figure out like what do their kids need.
Yeah.
We never ever hand the school a check for the money because I always just believe from like day one that if we buy them what they need, we know where the money is going.
100%.
Like if we hand them a check, we never know what's going to happen to it.
That's right.
So we actually work very closely with schools to figure out what they need, and then we buy it and we send it to them.
Awesome.
So we know where it's going. We know it's what the kids need. We only work with underprivileged areas in Harlem, Queens, Bronx, Manhattan, Long Island. Mm-hmm. There's really no like threshold or like requirements. It's a lot of, I have to say, like networking and word of mouth. Like usually one teacher like knows another teacher in a district and like another teacher, and it's just kind of like snowball effect.
Okay.
We've never, I take that back, we've said no to one school and they asked for iPads for their parent teacher coordinators, and I was like, no, like I have kids asking for pencils. I couldn't justify it.
Yeah.
So we basically, all of our schools, we give them whatever they need, whether it's art supplies for a classroom or a high school actually asked us for sports equipment for their teams because like a school in Harlem didn't have helmets for their baseball team, and like
super
that's
important.
Like they didn't have bats or baseballs.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, like that's important.
Totally.
So we gave them all of those things. Another school, they had a school library with 0 books in it.
Okay.
Which baffles me from like so many different angles that like there's schools in our backyard that don't have books in their library.
That's insane.
Which is crazy. So that was a big project because we basically like filled their library with books.
Amazing.
Another school had a playground that was just empty. Like literally the playground was concrete floor and brick around it, and that was it. So we sent them like a bunch of like supplies for the kids to play with. We sent them like toy houses, and then we actually partnered with another nonprofit and we built I think it was like a 3,000-foot mural around the whole perimeter, like brighten it up.
Yeah.
So I say that because like each school is very different, and we make sure that each school like gets what they need.
Amazing. That's very noble of you. Do you have kids yourself?
No.
Are you single?
I feel like I have like 10,000 kids because I help so many kids. I am painfully single.
Painfully?
So like, if you can set me up with anybody in your Rolodex, I'll take it.
Real Talk with Ronnie is now Tinder. Swipe right.
Just literally just show me your Instagram and I'll just like swipe through and be like, set me up, don't set me up.
That's amazing. I love that. Unfortunately, I don't know if I have any like male. Do I have any male followers? I probably have male followers.
Tag me.
Yeah, I'm going to.
We'll put my phone number on there and
Listen,
like a little bit of everything.
What she's doing is so nice. If you're looking for the girl next door, call me.
I feel like I'm like the perfect little housewife. I run a charity, like.
You are the housewife of Long Island.
Exactly.
Tell me about the future of the foundation. What do you see for the company and where do you want it to go? Because I feel like you've kind of hit your certain goals, but I'm sure you have bigger ones.
So honestly, it's really hard for me right now because I don't know like how far you've researched into what we do and our journey, but basically when I opened our showroom in New York City in September, 4 weeks later, the radiator burst and destroyed almost everything that I've ever built. Like all of our pictures, a lot of our merchandise, like everything. I just imagine like walking into your apartment and just seeing everything just like gone.
Unbelievable.
And I say that because like all of a sudden you're like up, and then you're like, wait a second, back down.
Yeah.
And so that kind of set me back to figure out like, okay, now I have to take every day, like one day as it comes.
Yes.
So I'm not even thinking like 5 years down the line right now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, okay, what am I gonna do tomorrow to like get us back on our feet and like keep going and get us to that next step.
Shit.
So yeah, but that's one of the things that you just like as an entrepreneur, you never know what's going to happen.
Unpredictable.
Like who could even think of something like that?
But you know what? As an entrepreneur, it's predictably unpredictable.
Yes.
Like there will be shit that hits the fan at some point. You don't know what it's going to be. You don't know how it's going to happen. But like you can almost guarantee that something like this would happen because it happens to everyone. It's not your fault, and it's not like you did anything to deserve that. It's just a bump in the road.
Yeah. And that was like a big bump in the road. So now I'm just trying to figure out like, okay, what's next and how do I get there? Because it was definitely a big lesson because it taught me that like, okay, everything can be going really well and that could be taken from you in a second.
Yeah.
Like even influencers, like if you have 3 million followers on Instagram and Instagram shuts down tomorrow, like what's next for you?
What's next? That's so true.
I think you have to have those like setbacks to figure out like, okay, not everything is always like peaches and cream.
Yes,
like
100%.
You gotta figure it out.
Yeah. That's very interesting. So if you're looking to donate, please call Amanda.
Yes, please.
So tell me about the sales process. So I'm somebody who wants to buy something, say it's Rebecca Minkoff. So I go to your website, I go to your showroom. How does that work? And what percentage of the proceeds go to these amazing kids that you help?
So we do have a website. We ship around the world, so anybody can actually like go on our website and buy something and feel good about it because like you know that one, you're getting like a great designer piece at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, you're actually helping like local kids. We also have a showroom in New York City on 38th Street. We only do by appointment only because it's like our headquarters, so we need to know like when people are coming and things like that. But it's open to the public, so if anybody wants to like make an appointment and come shop, they're always more than welcome to. And even on Instagram, like we're starting to build our Instagram following because I'm seeing that like the more followers we have, like the more kind of people are like, oh wait, I like that top, or I like that pair of shoes that they're showcasing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the sales process. We also launched a magazine last year under the Fashion Foundation. It's called Restyled. basically that's our way of like, we had so much amazing merchandise and we weren't showcasing it. Like putting it on a mannequin like doesn't really showcase these outfits.
Sure.
So we created this magazine to show people like, this is our merchandise. Look how amazing it is. Look how cheap it is. Look what you're doing like when you shop. So it like shows like feel good stories about our charity, the merchandise, people who support us, influencers who support us.
Yeah.
All tied into one. So that's like a new way of us kind of like,
I love that.
showing people how to shop.
And also you can go back to your parents and she's using her damn fashion degree.
Yes. I like make a magazine from scratch.
There
I run
you go.
like the fashion foundation. I am the least fashionable person ever.
I don't agree.
I
would wear this outfit every day.
This is me dressed up. I hate shopping, which is the craziest thing. And everyone's like, but you run a store. I'm like, yeah, but like I wear sweatpants every day because every day we're like lugging boxes.
Yeah.
I'm like running around like a lunatic. Like I cannot be dressed up in heels. I need like sweatpants.
I
and
understand
sneakers.
that. I totally understand that life. I have to be dressed up every day of my life.
Oh,
So
see,
the
oh my God, we
second
need it.
I walk in the door, I am in sweatpants. Literally the second. I cannot, like I love looking good, feeling good, but I also love just lazing around because I never really get to do it. And then I have a 2-year-old, an almost 2-year-old, so she's very messy. And like there's constantly marker, food, apple juice, like just all over me. So wearing like your designer clothes while hanging out with your kids at home, not realistic.
Well, that's why it's good to shop at the Fashion Foundation because you could buy so much designer clothes and be like, oh, it's okay because it was only like $6.
Fantastic.
It's fine if there's apple juice on it.
You feel a little less guilty
Exactly.
about ruining something actually designer.
Exactly.
So if you had goals to like nail one designer that you don't actually have a relationship right now, who would that be?
Ooh, no one's ever asked me that. Tory Burch.
Okay.
I feel like Tori's like, she's so supportive of female entrepreneurs and everybody loves Tory Burch merchandise.
Yeah.
Um,
That's true.
So if I can get a donation from her, I feel like that would be like goals. But honestly, like any designer at this point that comes to me and is like, hey, we have samples to support you, I'm like, really? Like you want to support us? Like I get so excited and so grateful because it means that like they believe in our mission enough to donate those pieces.
Absolutely.
And support us.
Yeah. So I have a question. If they didn't donate it to you, I mean, you definitely found a problem and then you solved it in an amazing way. But if they didn't donate it to you and you never came up with the Fashion Foundation, what happens to all these pieces? Because they should just come to me.
That would be the easiest way, the best way. Honestly, I don't know. I think a lot of times, this is the thing with fashion, like samples are never going to go away. Like sustainable fashion is a thing right now. When I started this 6 years ago, like nobody was talking about sustainable fashion.
Right.
Now everyone's like sustainability and like what are we going to do?
Less waste.
Yes.
Yeah.
But samples will never go away because in the fashion industry, like you have to perfect those samples to make production runs of thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands of pieces. So there's always going to be samples. If I can be the person and the charity that all these brands like donate those samples to, I would, one, need like a bigger office, and two, like that's the dream. But they're never going to go away. They're always going to be there.
Right.
I think a lot of places, like they do donate to charities, they do sample sales, they, you give away to friends and family, and it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
But next week you get your next run of samples, and it's just like this process. It's never going to go away or go anywhere.
Right. Do you know that my father is in the garment business?
Oh.
So I have grown up around samples. He's sort of the middleman. He creates his own line, but he also does wholesale to retail.
Okay.
So my entire life, my father has taken trips to Spain and Italy, and he usually goes to like Amsterdam or somewhere else, like once a year, and then he buys a ton of samples, and then he comes here and he has designers use that as inspiration, and they create these mood boards and they come up with their own line. And then those pieces come to me.
Oh my God, I love it.
So
I love it.
Either they come to me or he tries to return them, or it depends, what they're used for. So my entire life I have seen the sampling sort of phenomenon exist. And my garage, my mother is going to kill me for admitting this, is full of samples.
So what do you guys do with them after? Like,
That is a very good question. They should 100% come to you.
I'll come to your house.
You should come to my house. So there was a year, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, where my mom forced my dad to clean out one of the garages so that a car could fit in the garage, because that is what a garage is for. And so he did. However, I do have to say, the other half of the garage, we have a 2-car garage, is full of samples. So they definitely do donate them. But like you said, it's an ongoing problem. And like once a year he cleans it out, and then 3 months later it's full again. So it's actually insane. And I totally understand why this makes so much sense, and why this works.
And I think that's part of the reason why like it's worked, because so many companies have samples and they just don't know what to do with them.
Right.
So when they hear about a charity that like will come and get them sometimes, or like they only have to ship it New York to New York or whatever, they're so happy to just be like, here's my samples, like take them. And some companies are like very, like they want to know what's happening. They want to know like how much money did we raise off of it, or how much, like where did that money go? And other companies are just like, here's our samples, we don't want to see, we don't want to hear, we don't want to know, but like just please take them. And I'll take whichever way is totally fine. But it's interesting because like I think it's just helping the fashion industry like clean out their closets
for a good cause.
For a good cause, and so easily. Like it's no sweat off their back. Like the product is made. I'm not asking them for $1.
Right.
And a lot of times it's easier for me to get like 5,000 pieces of merchandise from a company before I get $100 from them.
I understand.
Which is fine, because we'll raise a lot more money off of those like
sales,
those 1,000 pieces. Exactly. So if companies just like keep donating that way, that's great. We always welcome money. So like if they want to donate money, like obviously we're going to be like, yes, that's great. Some companies even have like sample sales and donate money to us, and then also donate the samples after. So like there's ways that some brands get more creative than others, more supportive than others.
So bottom line, if you want to get involved, there are several ways.
Yes, 100%.
So let's go back to that magazine, because I'm very interested. You recently just shot a cover I saw on Instagram, and who was on your cover?
So our next cover star is Melissa Gorga.
Amazing.
Which is fantastic. Paige DeSorbo from Summer House was on it last summer.
We're just all over Bravo.
I know. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like, can I have a Bravo show? Like, I feel like I need that. Bravo, if you're listening, like, give me a show, because my life is crazy. But the craziest part, like, Paige was so amazing. So this goes back to like the power of cold emailing. So I had watched Summer House, and I love Paige. I just think she's like so wholesome and so just like down to earth, and like she's not like screaming at people on TV.
Yes.
So when we were thinking of like our cover star for our second issue, I was like, I have to reach out to this girl, Paige. Like I didn't know her. Yeah. I sent her a cold email, and I was like, hey, like I love you. We love what you stand for. We love like your style. Would you be interested in like supporting us? And she emailed me back 11 minutes later, and she was like, oh my God, I would love to do this. And I was like, really?
It's very on brand for her too. She's all about the fashion. She's all about affordable fashion.
Yep. She was the perfect cover star like I could ever think of.
Yeah.
So once we got her, and like she was so supportive. Paige has actually like come into schools with me and saw like she did the cover. We had this huge launch party for her, but then she also like literally came to a school in sweatpants and like handed out holiday gifts to kids. So that like really helped us take that magazine to the next level, because we had that like that celebrity behind us supporting us. But it goes back to like a cold email. Like it took me a couple minutes to compose, and like a couple minutes to build up the strength to like hit send. But everyone's afraid of it, and like look what happens in return.
Yeah.
But yes, back to the magazine and like about it. Questions?
I just want to know, so you said Melissa Gorga's on the next cover.
Yes, she's our next cover star.
Amazing.
This is our 4th issue. We literally launched it last year thinking like, okay, let's like launch this mini magazine. And it was like 24 pages, our first issue. And we launched it, and everyone was like, what? You did what? Like, how cool. Nobody knew it was coming. We didn't tell like anybody. We didn't tease it anywhere. One day we were just like, hey, we just dropped a magazine. And everyone like freaked out. And then we were like, oh shit, like maybe we're on to something.
Definitely.
And then we like hauled ass to make the second issue, like literally a couple weeks later. And then that one Paige was on the cover, and we were like, oh wait, now we like actually have to make like a real magazine. Yeah. And it just kind of like
So how do you get access to this magazine if somebody wants to subscribe or take a look?
So we print it, like, because there's something about like an old school like printed magazine that I just love. And then also the cool part about what we do is it's online too. So while you're like looking through the magazine, if there's a pair of shoes in there that you like, you can click on that pair of shoes and it will take you directly to our shop to that pair of shoes.
And you can just purchase it.
So you can purchase it right then and there.
So smart. It's almost like a little catalog as well.
It's like a catalog / lookbook / magazine / coffee table book. It's like everything all in one because we get to do whatever we want. Like we make it. So the point of the magazine is like if we can get people to shop the magazine and shop those pieces, like that helps local students. Like it all goes back to like the children part of it, but we make it super easy for somebody to just like flip through and be like, I want that dress or I want that skirt.
Yeah, click,
purchase, and done.
That's the way people shop now anyways. There's so many things that I've purchased off of Instagram just because I see somebody wearing something and then I just want it immediately. So I buy it immediately.
And it's like you have to kind of be ahead of the curve. Like we are a charity, yes, but I always said like we're like a new age charity. Like yes, donations are great and like monetary donations always help, but like we have to think of like we're a fashion charity, so like what does that mean to people? And it's shopping, and that's also giving back. So any way we could basically like raise money, we're gonna figure out how to do it.
Cool. So one question that I ask all my guests is, if you weren't doing this and if you weren't doing this charity, what would you be doing?
Sleeping, 1. 2, probably an event planner. Like we plan a lot of events for the foundation and I've learned to love that.
Interesting.
So that's like my plan B if planner
like
doesn't work
wedding planner or just like dinner planner?
A little bit of everything. Like I plan a 300 person gala every year, like on my own with help from people, but I don't pay an event planner. And I'm like, well, shit, like I should be getting paid for stuff like this.
Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah.
We do events all the time. I'm going to call you.
Oh, please do. Please do. This is my new plan.
That's amazing. So the Fashion Foundation can be followed on Instagram at the Fashion Foundation. You can also get access to the magazine.
thefashionfoundation.org. Everything is on our website.
Perfect. And the showroom is located
on 38th Street, but you can book an appointment on our website.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on Real Talk with Ronnie. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and to this podcast, and follow me on social media at Ronnie Calra. Thank you.
Thank you so much.